CBS.
Coming up on the 10 p.m. report, a victory for President Reagan on the MX missile, a commitment to peace by the widow of Anwar Sadat, and a recall for the Honeywell Corporation. The story's up next on the Tuesday 10 p.m. report.
If you shop at one of these conventional supermarkets, this will interest you. It's a recent survey of grocery prices in the Twin Cities. It proves that if you've been shopping with them, you've been spending an average of 11 to 20% more than if you shop the country store. That's $11 to $20 more for every $100 you spend. Wouldn't this be a good week to start keeping up to $20 for yourself? The country store. Work a little, save a lot.
Time again for Golden Plump News. All across the Midwest, citizens flock to the streets to greet the victorious Golden Plump armies, knowing that they can now serve fresher, plumper, tastier Golden Plump chickens. They celebrate their liberation from ordinary chicken and vow never again to fall prey to southern birds. Golden Plump chickens. Freshness marches on.
The gasoline that gives this Trans Am Firebird faster acceleration is Amoco Premium Lead-Free.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From the WCCO Television newsrooms in the Twin Cities and Washington, D.C., this is the 10 p.m. report. With Dave Moore, Pat Miles, Skip Loescher, Mike Fairborn, Mark Rosen, and tonight's special report.
I'm Bill Carlson. On the eve of the opening of The Return of the Jedi, we'll meet two former Minnesotans who helped create those very special effects.
Good evening, everyone. Right from the start, President Reagan made it clear he wanted the MX in his arsenal. The president contends a $17 billion silo-based weapon is essential to the nation's defense. It's an argument he presented to members of Congress through personal lobbying, through an article he wrote, and that was published in the Washington Post, and through a letter he sent congressmen promising to negotiate with the Soviet Union a mutual dismantling of land-based missiles if he were given the MX. Today, the House granted his wish. Jim Gately in Washington. Jim?
David, the vote on the MX was supposed to be close, but the president lobbied heavily for the missile money, and Mr. Reagan won easily. The MX victory means another $625 million will be spent for research, development, and flight testing. That's assuming, of course, the Senate goes along, and that is likely. But in today's House action, many local Democrats wanted to kill the MX.
Spending America's wealth for this missile that will not work is a foolish spending of the sweat of our laborers, the genius of our scientists, and the hopes of our children.
Mr. Chairman, what we will create with this missile is a missile that won't be used and can't be defended and will have a nuclear white elephant and it ought to be defeated.
But the majority viewed the MX as a bargaining chip in our arms negotiations with the Russians.
For arms control, it seems to me that it is obligatory upon those who favor arms control to support your country's modernization efforts.
And that opinion for the MX won, 239 to 186, a clear victory for Mr. Reagan. In that vote, more than a third of the House Democrats supported the president. While the MX victory no doubt lifted Mr. Reagan's spirits, today's consumer prices brought him back to earth. For April, retail prices were up 0.6%. Higher gasoline led the way. The nickel-a-gallon gas tax increase and higher wholesale costs were the main reason gas prices were up 4%. Another higher-priced item was food. Bad weather and smaller vegetable crops caused prices to go up 0.5% in April. In general, the costs of gas, food, clothing, and shelter were up. The gasoline price increase cannot be blamed on OPEC countries. It's the major oil companies raising prices to make up for lower profits when gas prices fell. And Pat, the White House was quick to point out that overall inflation is still low.
All right, Jim, thank you. The recession is on the minds of Governor Rudy Perpich and 5 of his counterparts meeting in Cleveland tonight. The Midwestern governors are part of an economic summit of state leaders from Minnesota, Ohio, Indiana, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Illinois. They hope to explore common problems of states bordering the Great Lakes. Alan Cox is in Cleveland tonight. We'll hear from him live a bit later in the broadcast. Well, it's all quiet at the state capitol tonight following last night's adjournment of the state legislature. And in the final hours, lawmakers passed a much disputed workers' compensation bill, which includes a benefit package opposed by labor and a state insurance fund opposed by the business community. Karen Boros traces the long road to passage for this bill.
It was early April when negotiations broke down between organized labor and business. On the day agreement had been expected, trouble surfaced instead.
It's not a case of everything being completely agreed and then all of a sudden somebody pulled out. It was, they kept saying, we have problems with this two-tier system, we have problems with this two-tier system, and we kept trying to fix their problems, trying to fix them, and we thought we had them all fixed, and then when we came in the morning, all of a sudden, it turned out we didn't.
1 month later, a coalition of House DFLers and Republicans passed a bill opposed by DFL leadership and organized labor. But there was trouble in the Senate, where a strange alliance of laborite DFLers joined Republicans to twice defeat the bill, to the frustration of the business community, which wanted the bill and failed to persuade Republicans to vote for it, and to the frustration of the DFL leadership.
I managed to be able to talk about 24, 25 DFLers to go against labor. I can't wring any more out of our caucus on that.
The price for Republican votes was amendments. 3 hours before adjournment last night, 2 Republican amendments were approved. 2.5 hours later, the bill had passed the House and Senate.
I'm glad to have the bill passed. It's a great relief. We've worked on it for a long time, but a lot of my friends voted against it and didn't support it, and we're going to have to prove to them that this is as good for injured workers as we've said it is.
Karen Boros, WCCO Television News at the state capitol.
And this interesting footnote, 80% of the bills that are proposed or were proposed this session never became law. Dave?
Nearly 800,000 Honeywell smoke detectors are being recalled tonight for concern that they may not sound an alarm when smoke is present. The Consumer Product Safety Commission announced the retrieval of these model number detectors manufactured between 1977 and 78. The model numbers to be retrieved are TC89B and TC89C. If you have one of those smoke detectors, call Honeywell for a replacement. The toll-free number is 800-328-8194. The widow of Jihan Sadat continues his quest for peace. Her story is next on the 10 p.m. report.
Hey, what's going on?
I don't know.
Oh, the Applebaum family's back.
The apple is back.
Great deli.
At Applebaum.
Great meat.
The apple is back. At Applebaum.
I love it, I love it.
The apple is back.
Great produce.
At Applebaum.
Great prices.
The apple is back. At Applebaum.
That's beautiful.
The apple is back. At Applebaum.
Watch closely. Here comes Fujifilm. With color pictures so true to life, it's a real breakthrough. New Fuji HR films. Fuji's advanced technology has developed a higher resolution film than we've ever had before. So we give you sharper pictures with truer color than ever before. Get new Fuji HR films and get the true picture. Look for this incredible money-saving offer on Converse athletic gear from Fuji, the official film of the Los Angeles Olympics.
Today, there's a brand new overnight letter, specially designed to meet your most urgent needs. The Emery Urgent Letter. Now you can send 4 ounces up to 20 pages in a full-sized envelope. And the price, desk to desk to most of America, is just $11. The more important papers you send, the more you need the Emery Urgent Letter. Meeting America's most urgent overnight needs. Try it.
Ford sale you'll ever see, and special prices marked so low. When you see our deals, you can't say no. Get 9.9 APR when you make a deal on the right Ford car right now. Thunderbird and Bronco 2 and Tempo, hey, they're all brand new. Mustang, Escort, LTD, your Northland Ford dealer, the one to see right now. We've got the right car, the right price, the right time is now, right now.
One may be sure that no one understands better, more profoundly, the triumph and tragedy of efforts to bring peace to the Middle East than Jihan Sadat. As Egypt's First Lady, she witnessed the signing of the historic Camp David Peace Accords. And within months of that event, she would attend the funeral of her husband Anwar Sadat, slain by a fanatic Muslim gunman.
Dave, for the past 3 days, Mrs. Sadat has been offering her insights into the troubled Mideast in a number of Twin Cities speaking engagements. Today, she spoke about her homeland and her husband in an interview with Philip Holman.
Hello. This is Phil Holman.
Just as her late husband, Egyptian President Anwar Sadat, Jihan Sadat is a crusader of peace in the Middle East. She fervently believes the United States should recognize and negotiate with the Palestinians.
They are the core of the problem, and they have no homeland. And if we wanted peace to prevail really in our area, then they must put in their mind that the Palestinians, they have to share and they have to negotiate with them.
What do you think the result would be if Syria does not pull out of Lebanon?
I don't think Syria will not go out of Lebanon. I don't think so, because I believe that the Syrian like Lebanon to be for the Lebanese, because they are Arab like each other and they are one family.
She said her late husband admired Prime Minister Begin's skill as a negotiator.
He was always saying that he is a strong personality. He is difficult sometimes, yes, but for the benefit of his country. But he is an honest man.
At this time, if you had one mission in life, what would you say it is?
It will be for peace. Although my husband paid his life for it, and I'm ready even to pay my life for it also. I'm not afraid.
Philip Holman, WCCO Television News, Hamlin College.
After a full day of meetings on how to improve relations between Russia and the United States, these American hosts found out one of the best ways to please the Russians is to feed them. And that's just what these 28 Russians were treated to tonight at the IDS building in downtown Minneapolis, some American food and some hospitality. The Russians are in the Twin Cities as part of a program being sponsored by the Institute for Policy Studies in Washington, D.C. and hosted by Minneapolis Mayor Don Frazier. Their meetings will continue tomorrow on a variety of topics, including arms control. Jim?
Pat, while the Russians are supposed to be our enemies, the French, we are told, are lovers. Well, not so today. Thousands of French students showed no love for a government plan to tighten university admission standards. It started out peaceful, but not for long. There were injuries on both sides. Entire blocks were engulfed with tear gas, and the battle lasted several hours. The violent demonstrations against many departments of the French government are expected to continue tomorrow. The violence was even worse in Belfast, Northern Ireland. A van loaded with 700 pounds of explosives blew up and injured 12 people. The target was a police station, and obviously there was extensive damage. This was the third attack on British forces in Northern Ireland in the last day. David?
Jim, that gentle, soft rain that brought such pastoral calm to the Twin Cities this morning, later and to the south of us, turned torrential.
Timing, I guess, was important to us. If that storm had, the front had moved through us a little bit later in the day, then we would have been getting the same thing that they got down in Iowa. They did have some tornadoes touch down, down around the Des Moines area. If you want to see what severe weather looks like as it develops, watch that little line over Iowa there. You can see how it just blossomed very late in the afternoon. That big dark area, of course, are the thunderstorm tops that are very, very cold, and there you can see what they look like as they billow up very quickly. Those pictures, by the way, each one is about an hour apart. This is when we were getting reports of popcorn-sized hail down around the Rochester area. Though that storm later produced wind gusts to 60 miles an hour in La Crosse with a severe thunderstorm warning issued, and eventually on down into Iowa as tornado watches and tornado warnings were issued later on in the day. Our satellite picture right now shows that line of thunderstorms continuing all the way down into Texas. Those storms are still rampaging around that area. If we take a look at the satellite or the radar picture from across the country, you can see that still very heavy thunderstorm cells are being reported, especially through parts of Nebraska and southern Iowa. All of that is moving south, not moving our way, so it's moving out of the region. So we can relax on that one. Weather guide today, we reached 73 degrees. 57 was the overnight low last night, and if we take a look at the amount of precipitation we had this morning, only 0.02 of an inch officially reported. Sunrise at 5:35 in the morning. Our forecast map for tomorrow, high pressure building in over us will push all the clouds and precipitation eastward, and we should see a lot of sunshine building in from the west. Also a warm front working its way our way should begin to kick temperatures up into the 70s, maybe even some close to 80-degree temperatures here by the end of the week. For tomorrow, though, we'll be right on the 60-70 line. A little bit cooler air than we had over us today, but it's going to be a very, very pleasant day with the calm winds and plenty of sunshine. We're 61 degrees right now, north winds at 13, 51% humidity, 29.96 and rising on the barometer. Our forecast look like this. We'll clear and cool tonight, 44 for an overnight low. Tomorrow will be sunny, it'll be pleasant, 68 degrees for a high with light winds. Then tomorrow night and Saturday will be mostly clear and mostly sunny with 51 degrees for an overnight low and 74 on Thursday. The extended outlook calls for temperatures to continue to hover right in the low 70-degree range, and we'll be mostly sunny. It looks like a great weekend coming up. Phoenix, Arizona, by the way, David, hit 109 degrees today, a record high even for them.
With what we have, we don't need Phoenix, thank you.
Okay.
We're moving in on summer. A visit with some local artists who helped make the Return of the Jedi, up next on the 10 p.m. report.
We took 3 identical cars and put in 3 comparable car stereos, Pioneer, Blaupunkt, and Krakow. The Krakow has Dolby sound and other hi-fi features. So do the others. The Krakow has auto reverse and metal tape capability. So do the others. But the extra feature you won't find on the others that you will on the Krakow is our lower price. And as for power, we blow the others away. Down the road, you'll be glad it's a Krakow.
Available at Montgomery Ward.
It's the biggest twist of summer, the biggest splash, the freshest flowers, the loudest laugh.
Pepsi-Cola's official grand opening of Valley Fair has never been bigger, featuring at no extra charge the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, live and in concert daily at 5 and 7. This Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, a grand Memorial Day weekend.
It's a laugh going up, it's a scream coming down. It's the biggest family day around.
This small, unassuming device is, in fact, a major advance in communications. It's the new MCI Executive Pager. It tells you not just the telephone number that called, but who called. It can receive stock quotes, prices, sales figures, even store messages. And it can do it silently. The new Executive Pager from MCI. The greatest tool for business since the telephone. So call us before your competition does.
On the next episode of Soap, Bert's running for sheriff.
Don't miss Soap tonight at 10:30 on WCCO television.
Before we go to the Return of the Jedi, earlier we mentioned the gathering in Cleveland, Ohio, of the governors of the Great Lakes states. Alan Cox is standing by with a direct report. Go ahead, Alan.
Dave, the message coming out of Cleveland tonight is that the Great Lakes states are alike in opportunities, but also in adversity. In the states represented here, nearly 3 million people were out of work in March. The states owe $8 billion they've borrowed from the federal government to pay unemployment compensation. Altogether, the states' budgets are in deficit by $65 million. Facing those grim facts, the governors, especially the 4 Democrats just elected, hope to find strength through cooperation with their neighbors. Minnesota's governor volunteered to head up an effort to handle foreign trade.
At the time I lost in 1978, I then spent 3.5 years in Europe in international marketing.
You sound just right for this.
Yeah, I'm gonna volunteer, believe it or not.
It is something which needs to be worked upon, but it's going to be one of the more difficult things that we will do because there's a natural suspicion that somebody's moving in on somebody else's territory.
That skepticism about cooperation was voiced again tonight after the evening's entertainment, a visit to an ore carrier docked on Lake Erie. Governors are now in a private meeting trying to iron out disagreements so they can announce some agreements in the morning. Dave?
How like governors. Thank you, Alan. To Pat Miles in the newsroom and tonight's Star Wars. Pat?
Dave, the Star Wars story, Bill Carlson will take a look at the work of 2 former Minnesotans who contributed to the Return of the Jedi. They are special effects artists Peter Stoltz and Richard Edlund.
Throughout most of motion picture history, this area of Southern California around Hollywood has become known as the film capital of the world. But now one of the most successful of the young filmmakers, George Lucas, has moved his headquarters 400 miles to the north, here in Marin County, just across the Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco. Lucasfilm has established a group of professional tinkerers, as it were, who have gotten into the habit of making very successful motion pictures.
The minute you walk through the door after you've been hired, first thing you do is sign a secrecy act. And everything from then on you're kind of sworn to. It serves as a convenience in a way, because you can just say, well, I'm sworn to secrecy, I can't really talk about it.
Special effects, a time-consuming, often tedious sort of work. In the example we're watching, developing laser effects.
We'll get a storyboard of, say, 57 frames, 24 frames a second, a little over 2 seconds, and you'll spend 8, 12 hours shooting those 57 frames.
Every moment of film is regarded with respect. While filming this scene in London, George Lucas noticed that the character Nine Nim with Billy D. Williams was on the screen too long without animation.
The film wasn't even out of the camera, and they realized that the eyes had to blink. And George came up to me and said, "Stuart, could you make the eyes blink?"
Well, of course he could, but it took a 2-week round trip, London to California, to improve this 30-second piece of film with the blink. Richard Edlund has 3 Academy Awards as a result of his work with Lucas, and he explained to us how this effect in Return of the Jedi was accomplished.
Well, actually, the background was photographed at 1 frame a second with a fellow with a device called a Steadicam, which holds the camera very steady and it gyro stabilizes. And the fellow was very carefully walking along with the camera at 1 frame a second. Then we projected at 24 frames a second. It looks like he's going 50 miles an hour.
And though we're all excited by the finished product, Edlund admits,
well, it's very boring to watch us create these scenes because it takes sometimes months to do a shot. It's very tedious work, and the audience is not aware that we spend 2 years creating 14, 15, maybe 20 minutes of film.
May the Force be with us.
With photographer Kent Westberg, Bill Carlson, WCCO Television News, near San Francisco.
Another hit parade for the Twins in Baltimore tonight. Mark Rosen with the highlights in a moment.
Remember what health care was like in the service?
Get in there, take it down, fill out these forms. What service number there, crazy, huh? Salute. You call that a salute? That's not a salute.
Unfortunately, lots of HMOs aren't much better.
Is this the clinic? I've been driving for hours.
Stand there, take this number, fill out this form, hurry. Give me your insurance numbers. Stick this in your mouth.
But at HMO Minnesota, we give you superior health care coverage with no red tape. Best of all, at HMO Minnesota, we are your family doctor. You'll love HMO Minnesota. It's like getting out of the service.
When you run a small business, problems can leave you groping in the dark.
You couldn't sleep either, huh?
Unless you have a reliable guide, like the Texas Instruments professional computer.
We do it by Tuesday?
It helps you control inventory, check alternate schedules, and gives you answers today. So tomorrow dawns as planned.
Mike, I've got it. All right.
The Texas Instruments professional computer. See your newspaper for a dealer near you.
Yesterday, Mom comes over and says the house smells. She tells Jason he'll get gopher teeth if he keeps sucking his thumb. Then she says, "You look terrible. You should relax." I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So, last night I called my sister in Tulsa and cried for 5 minutes and laughed for 5 minutes.
A long-distance visit with someone special. It costs so little. 10 minutes almost anywhere in the country, under $3.
It's nice to get away for a while.
Natural Wisconsin cheese makes a mealtime sandwich the enticing entree. Delicious Wisconsin cheese. Serve it as an appetizer for snacking or elegant entertaining. Versatile Wisconsin cheese turns Tuesday's casserole into a special weekend feast. Famous Wisconsin cheese gives you a tempting selection of taste-appealing varieties. Enjoy Wisconsin cheese, nature's gift to you all year round.
Look what happens to the Twins when they get out of that warehouse over there. Me and my pal here are here to tell you that the Minnesota Twins are for real. For the second straight night on the road, they were a complete 100% Major League Baseball team.
Dave, what you're talking about was the fact that the Twins have they went 41 games without a complete game from their pitching staff. They beat Baltimore tonight by the score of 6-1. They accomplished that feat now 2 straight games. Frank Viola pitched a complete game last night. Bobby Castillo did the same thing tonight. The Orioles are really in a tailspin, losing 5 straight, but make no mistake about it, the Twins are a very confident young team right now, and as you mentioned, they're doing this on the road. The home run parade continued. After hitting 5 against the Birds last night, John Castino ripped his 9th of the year in the first inning. Castino leads the league in total bases and runs scored. And how about Tom Brunansky? Is he ever strong? One Watch here. Of his last five hits, 4 are home runs, the other a double. Gary Gaetti, by the way, extended his hitting streak to 16. Ron Washington is really coming on strong at short. He drove in 3 runs tonight. This double hugged the left field chalk stripe. Bernansky scored. Dave Engel was right on his heels. Does he or doesn't he touch home plate? In a cloud of dust, it's hard to tell, but the man in blue signals safe, and that's all that matters. How well is everything going for the Twins? Well, Ron Washington struck out, but the Twins still scored a run because the ball bounced away from the catcher. Mickey Hatcher trotted across home. Castillo walked in a run in the first inning, but that's all Baltimore had. He shut him out the rest of the way. The Twins 6 and Baltimore 1. Elsewhere, Toronto, they are now in first place all alone in the Eastern Division. They beat Detroit 7-6. Chicago over Boston. Texas and Kansas City 2-2 in the 5th. That game has been delayed by rain. The Yankees, California, Cleveland, Seattle, and Oakland, Milwaukee are just getting underway. In the National League, San Diego and Montreal are now in the 10th inning. San Francisco beat the Mets by the score of 6-2. It was Los Angeles shutting out the Phils again 3-0. St. Louis 7 and Cincinnati 1. And let's see, Pittsburgh defeated Atlanta by the score of 6-5. And Chicago leading Houston now by the score of 4-2 in the 8th inning. Before Cretin can contemplate the prospects of a 3rd consecutive state baseball title, it will have Hill Murray to contend with. Nick Beldy's RBI single here triggered a 7-1 victory for the Pioneers and a St. Paul City baseball title. This game was determined early on. Hill Murray picked up 3 more runs in the 2nd inning, courtesy of Cretin's pair of throwing errors on this one play. Hill Murray will now face the winner of the Washburn-Edison game for the Twin Cities Championship in the Metrodome on Thursday afternoon. The Pioneers picked up another run in the 4th on a single here by Tim Mauer. You may recall Cretin defeated Hill Murray for the Class AA title last year. Neither Hans Simonson nor the clay courts of Paris were kind to Vitas Gerulaitis. Today, Vitas abandoned normal clay court tactics and was thrashed and passed by the 21-year-old Swede in straight sets. However, the 3rd and 4th seeds, Ivan Lendl and Guillermo Villas, both won in straight sets. In the next couple of years, don't be surprised if you see this young man playing in the French Open. Frederick Paulette of the U of M caused quite a stir at the NCAA tennis tournament last week, becoming just the 5th freshman ever to reach the singles finals. Playing against Frederick reminded me of the first time I ever slammed a tennis ball against a brick wall. Everything comes back at you with incredible force and spin, and he was just horsing around today. Frederick hopes to play in the Minnetonka Invitational here this summer and is also trying to qualify for the U.S. Open this fall. He will definitely be back at the U next fall, which has brought a smile to the face of his coach, Jerry Noyce. Paulette and his partner, Stefan Eriksson, were looking for a doubles game, so I sent out an emergency call for my old partner, Ahmad Rashad, now with NBC Sports, and who was an excellent tennis player. We kept telling the Swedes we were just out here to have fun. Just relax, guys. We actually won a couple of points and quit just when Frederick and Stefan were about to get serious. Rashad knew when to get out of football, and he proved today he recognized when it's time to shake hands and forget about playing against human backboards. Craig Morton is back in football and in Denver, but this time as the head coach of the USFL's Denver Gold. Morton replaces Red Miller, who was fired last week. You say you're in the market for a good buy, a company with a rich tradition and a sound financial standing? Well, look no further. Just contact Harry Mangurian in Boston because his Celtics are for sale. The deal also includes the Boston Garden. It's fun to get out on the tennis court today. Paulette is unbelievable.
That's what I understand. All right, Mark, thank you. Coming up on tomorrow's assignment board, that meeting between Soviet and American experts continues with a public session at the St. Paul campus at the University of Minnesota. And spraying for gypsy moths begins tomorrow morning in St. Paul. Jim?
Pat, the Senate will debate the MX missile. It's expected to go along with the House of Representatives and approve money for research and development. And several Minnesota businessmen from electronic firms will be in Washington. Their aim to tell their congressmen what's needed in Minnesota for its high-tech businesses to succeed. David, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Jim. Everyone loves fireworks, right? Okay. We're going to send you to bed tonight with the largest fireworks display in New York history. This is the culmination of a full day of activity celebrating the 100th birthday of the Brooklyn Bridge, the most oft-sold and most frequently jumped from suspension bridge in the world. It's a 6,000-foot span that took 14 years to build. Ooh, look at that. At a cost of 15 million simoleons. As one die-hard Dodger fan said, try moving that to Los Angeles. We have a lovely day tomorrow. Let's all get out and enjoy it and be back here tomorrow night at 10. Until then, thank you and good night.
9 out of every 10 Midwestern homes being built today use natural gas for home heating. Why? Certainly new high-efficiency gas furnaces save money. But the main reason 90% of new Midwestern homes use natural gas is because it's the cheapest fuel available. And because many years from now, as the homes mature, gas will still be the lowest cost home fuel. We're working to ensure an energy future we can all build on for generations to come.
On the next edition of Our Magazine.
How many times do I have to talk to you? What do you want your kid to say? 6 times? 7 times?
Gary Collins explores assertive parenting.
Come across with an effective verbal message and increases your probability of getting results.
Dr. Rosenfeld examines the pros and cons of the Cambridge diet. George Papard and more. We make every hour count.
Here's a golden treasure from the Treasury of the United States, U.S. gold.